Jack had spent a day with his friends. They had gone to the cinema, eaten, and chatted when it was late afternoon. He parted ways with his friends and headed home. He liked to walk. He was doing sports and watching the surroundings. It was getting dark, but Jack didn't care. He was close to his age. It was getting dark, but Jack didn't care. He was close to his home. He would be there in a few minutes. As he walked, he entered a street. This street was a shortcut that Jack always used, but today it looked a bit different. The street lamps were not on. There was no one around. Silence prevailed as he walked. He entered a street. This street was a shortcut that Jack always used, but today it looked a bit different. The street lamps were not on. There was no one around. Silence prevailed. Jack felt uneasy for a moment, but then pulled himself together. What could happen? I've passed through here 1,000 times. Nothing will happen, he thought. He continued to walk down the street. As he walked down the street, a fear began to creep into Jack. He heard strange noises around him, as if someone was watching him. Jack looked behind him, but he couldn't see anyone. He started to walk fast. He wanted to get out of the street, but no matter how much he walked, the street never ended. Jack panicked. How can this be? This street was very short. How did it get so long, he thought. He started looking for an exit on the street, but it was surrounded by walls. Jack felt helpless. Just then, a building appeared in front of Jack. The building had the word hospital written in large letters on it. Jack was happy to see the building. Maybe there are people here. Maybe they can help, he thought. He ran to the building, opened the door, and entered. The inside of the building was darker than the outside. The corridors were empty. The lights were off. Only the emergency lights were on. Jack walked inside the building, looking for a reception. Jack wanted to get out of here, but there was no way back. It was more reasonable to try to find an exit here than to stay on the street. Jack gathered his courage and continued to explore the building. Jack was wandering on the first floor of the building when he stopped in front of a door. The door had the word Morg written on it. Jack opened the door and entered. The morgue was cold and dark. There were body bags on the shelves. Some of them were torn. Jack walked in the morgue. He heard a sound. It was like someone was moaning. Jack headed towards the source of the sound. He came to a body bag. The bag was moving slightly. Jack opened the bag curiously. When he opened the bag, a horrible sight appeared in front of Jack. The corpse in the bag was Jack himself. The corpse's face was covered with blood and wounds. The corpse looked at Jack and smiled. Then he reached out and grabbed Jack's throat. Jack screamed, but no one heard him. The corpse squeezed Jack harder and harder. Jack couldn't breathe. Jack closed his eyes and fainted. When Jack opened his eyes, he found himself in a hospital room. He was lying on the bed. There was a nurse next to him. The nurse smiled at Jack and asked, "Hello, how are you?" Jack was confused. "Where am I?" he asked. The nurse said, "This is a hospital. They found you unconscious on the street. They brought you here. You were in a coma for a while, but now you're fine." Jack was relieved. So it was all a dream, he thought. The nurse said, "Let's let you rest a bit. Then the doctor will come in, talk to you," and left the room. Jack lay on the bed and looked around. The room was clean and bright. Jack felt safe, but something caught his attention. On the wall of the room, the word Morg was written in large letters. Jack got up from the bed in fear. He opened the door and looked at the corridor. The corridor was dark and empty. Only the emergency lights were on. Jack was horrified. How can this be? Was this the morgue, he thought? Jack wanted to get out of the room, but the door was locked. Jack started to hit the door. "Help me. Get me out of here," he shouted, but no one heard him. Jack was alone, and Jack's soul was trapped in the hospital.